Good morning, my students. In this video, we'll learn how can we tell the clock. I'm going to tell the time using the analog, not digital, analog clock. Okay, of course you know that it is a clock. This is a clock. Okay, I have two hands or two arrows for the clock. I have, these are hands of clock. Okay, let's begin. I have this clock and I have these two hands, a long hand and a short hand. I'll divide my clock into two parts, the part on the right and the part on the left. Let's begin. If I have the long arrow on the right part, so I'll say past. If I have the long arrow on the left part, so I'll use 2. If I have the long arrow on the 12, I'll say o'clock. Okay, step by step we'll know how can I use it. First, if I have the long hand or the long arrow on 1, I say 5 past. If I have the long arrow on 2, I'll say 10 past. If I have the long arrow on 3, I'll say a quarter past. If I have the long arrow on 4, I'll say 20 past. If I have the long arrow on 5, I'll say 25 past. If I have the long arrow on 6, I'll say half past. This the right part. So as we said, we use past, the word past, in the right part. What about the left part? If I have the long arrow on 7, I'll say 25 to, not past. If I have the long arrow on 8, I'll say 22, not past. If I have the long arrow on 9, I say a quarter to, not past. If I have the long arrow on 10, I'll say 10 to. And if I have it on 11, I'll say 5 to. Okay, let's have some practice together. What do you think about this one? How can I say the time here? I have the long hand or the long arrow on 12 and the short arrow on 4. We said before that if I have the long arrow on 12, I say o'clock. So, what's the time? It's 4 o'clock. What about this one? The long arrow on 1. So, on the right port. On the right port, I use which word? It's past. So, what's the time? It's 5 past 2. Okay, what about this one? I have the long arrow on 2. So I use past also. So I'll say, what's the time? It's 10 past 7. What about this one? I use past also. What's the time? It's 20 past 5. What about this? We said if the long arrow is on 3 or 9, I say quarter. On the right part, يبقى quarter past. So, what's the time? It's quarter past 5. Okay, I have the long arrow on 6, so it's half. It's half past. What's the time? It's half past 9. What about this one? The long arrow on 7 and the short arrow on 10. So, I'm on the left part. I don't use past. I use what? Yes, that's it, 2. So, what's the time? It's 25 to 11. What about this? We said 3 and 9 quarter. But on the 3, quarter past. And on 9, quarter to. So, what's the time? It's quarter to 1. Okay, this is the digital clock. The part that we have taken a short time ago, it's called analog clock. So how can I say what's the time here? It's 10 to 12 or 11:50. What's the time? What's the time? It's 5 to 1 or 12:55. What's the time? It's 12 to 12 or 11:48. What's the time? It's 4 to 4 or 15:56 or 4:56. Thank you, my students. I hope you enjoyed our lesson today.